She smiled like she was posing for Instagram, then cried like she'd just watched a tragic movie. Not what you expect from a teenager who just called 911 to report her parents murdered. But 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick wasn't acting like anyone expected. Not when she begged true crime creators like us. And yes, I mean me, we were there live. She begged us to make her story viral just days after the bodies were found. Her exact words? Cover my story. It'll be a really big hit. This isn't a Netflix script. This isn't a horror movie. This is the real-life case of Sarah Grace Patrick. Was this a grieving daughter? Or something much more calculating? This isn't just another murder case. This is Gen Z's first true crime superstar, a digital native who understood exactly how to weaponize a system that made podcasts like Hooked on True Crime and Netflix documentaries so popular. She didn't just want attention. She knew exactly how to get it. And she might have killed her parents to get it. From a very first hearing, Sarah made headlines not just for the crime she allegedly committed, but for her bizarre behavior. Court reporters describe her as detached one moment, then strangely amused, almost like she was performing for cameras. We'll break down those chilling court moments. The eerie smile, the crying outburst, and her shocking plea for the True Crime Vault to cover her case. The question is, was this the performance of a manipulative killer, or the unraveling of a troubled teenager caught in a nightmare? The outcome? 2 people dead, a daughter behind bars, and a true crime community left wondering if their obsession created this monster. Sarah Grace Patrick was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder months after that initial 911 call. But between the tragedy and the arrest, there were TikTok videos, there were Instagram stories, there was a performance. Because what do you do when your parents are brutally murdered? If you're Sarah Grace, you don't call a lawyer, you call a content creator. You don't ask for privacy, you ask for virality. This is the story of how true crime made itself, how a consumer became the content, and how a teenage girl might have killed for fame. To understand Sarah, we need to rewind. Born in Georgia, raised in what seemed like an ordinary home. Neighbors described the family as quiet but normal. Friends saw Sarah as smart, but also withdrawn, often escaping into online worlds. Behind the suburban walls of the Patrick home, life wasn't as perfect as it looked from the outside. Sarah Grace Patrick lived with her mother, a woman many described as loving but firm. Friends of the family would later say her mother expected a lot from Sarah. Good grades, good behavior, the image of a respectful Southern teen. Her stepfather, on the other hand, was a disciplinarian. He wasn't abusive, at least not in any documented way, but he was the kind of man who believed rules were rules, and if you broke them, there were consequences. Neighbors recalled hearing arguments through the thin Georgia walls. They weren't constant, but when they happened, they were loud. Shouting, doors slamming, and the kind of silence afterward that makes you wonder what really goes on behind closed doors. To outsiders, Sarah was a typical teenager. Smart, funny at times, but increasingly withdrawn. Online, she escaped into social media, following influencers, scrolling TikTok, disappearing into worlds where attention was currency. Offline, she seemed frustrated, suffocated even. Was Sarah living under unbearable pressure? Was she clashing with parents who didn't understand her need for independence, or her obsession with being noticed? These are the questions people ask now. But at the time, no one realized how close that household was to exploding. Now on the night of the murders, it was late on a school night when everything changed. Inside the Patrick home, it should have been an ordinary evening. Dinner dishes stacked in sink, a television humming faintly in the background, a mother and stepfather winding down for the night. But police say Sarah had already crossed a line in her mind. At some point during those late hours, she allegedly picked up a weapon. Whether it was rage, years of tension boiling over, or a cold, deliberate choice, no one knows. What investigators do know is that Sarah's mother and stepfather never made it out of that house alive. The first blow, the first shot, the first scream, whichever came first, shattered the silence. Imagine the suddenness of it. 1 second of family arguing in whispers, the next chaos. The smell of gunpowder or blood filling the air. a body falling against the floor. A home that would never be the same again. The neighbors didn't hear much. Some said later they thought they caught the faint echo of shouting, maybe a loud bang. But in a quiet Georgian neighborhood, noises blend into the night. Most assumed it was nothing. Hours later, the nightmare revealed itself. It wasn't Sarah who called the police. It wasn't a tearful confession or a desperate plea for help. It was silence. Authorities were alerted only after concerned relatives and neighbors grew uneasy. Maybe a family member hadn't heard back from Sarah's mom. Maybe the light stayed on too long into the night. Whatever it was, someone eventually made the call. When police arrived, they pushed open the patchwork front door and stepped into a scene straight out of a horror film. Inside, the air was heavy, that kind of stillness that makes your stomach turn before you even see anything. Then came the sight. Sarah's mother and stepfather, lifeless. Their bodies showed signs of violent struggle. Blood spattered in places that told investigators this wasn't quick or clean. It was brutal, personal. One officer would later describe it as the kind of scene you don't forget. And where was Sarah? Not missing, not hysterical, but present, calm in a way that chilled even the most seasoned detectives. This is where the story shifts. Because from the moment police entered that house, they realized this wasn't just a crime. It was a performance beginning to unfold. Let's break down the key events, because this timeline is wilder than any episode of Dahmer or the Menendez Brothers one. November 2023, Kristen and James Brock are found shot to death in their home. Their 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace, makes the 911 call. She sounds distressed, but later analysis would show vocal patterns inconsistent with genuine shock. December 2023, while police are still investigating, Sarah takes to TikTok. In one video, she cries, "I just want justice for my parents." But in another, she directly tags true crime influencers. "This case needs exposure. Please help me get justice." The comments are flooded with support, and true crime creators actually start covering her story. January 2024, the narrative shifts. Police notice inconsistencies in Sarah's story. There's no evidence of a break-in. The family dog that should have barked at strangers didn't. And forensics shows the shooting likely occurred hours before Sarah claimed to have discovered the bodies. February 2024, the bombshell. Sarah is arrested and charged with both murders. The motive? According to prosecutors, a combination of family tension and a desire for attention. The kind of attention true crime celebrities get. The kind of attention she saw creators getting from shows like Dahmer and the Menendez Brothers. And throughout it all, the courtroom behavior. Sarah would alternate between smiling casually and bursting into tears. She'd make eye contact with courtroom artists like she was posing. She seemed to be directing her own documentary, starring herself. The emotional whiplash of this case is what makes it so disturbing. Because Sarah didn't just want attention. She wanted a specific kind of attention. The kind that comes with being a true crime celebrity. The kind that makes you the subject of podcasts like Hooked on True Crime and YouTube documentaries. And the public reaction? Absolute chaos. TikTok videos with hashtag Sarah Grace Patrick got over 50 million views. Some painted her as a victim, a girl just seeking justice. Others created memes about her performative grief. Reddit threads analyzed every frame of her videos. YouTube commentaries picked apart her courtroom behavior, because this is what true crime has become in the Gen Z era. Not just consumption, but participation. Not just observation, but collaboration. Sarah understood that in today's attention economy, even tragedy can be curated. Even murder can be marketed. And the most chilling part? She might have been right. Her case got more coverage than similar ones because she knew how to pitch it. She spoke the language of true crime algorithms. She knew what would trend, what would get clicks. She was both suspect and producer, both accused and director. And that's where part one of this chilling case ends, with Sarah standing in the middle of a crime scene that shocked Georgia, and police left wondering how a 17-year-old girl could be so calm in the aftermath of such horror. But the story is far from over. In part two, we'll take you inside the interrogation room, where Sarah's eerie behavior left detectives unsettled, and into the courtroom, where she did something no one could believe. She begged influencers to make her story go viral. Click the video on your screen at the end of this video to continue with part 2. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. And as always, if you found this story haunting, make sure to like this video, subscribe to True Crime Vault, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Do you think Sarah's behavior was shock or something much darker?